Peace, peace. What's everybody up to? How's everybody doing? Not sure if anybody gonna hop in on this live. That's okay. This is something I came up with spontaneously. This has been weighing on my mind for a while, and I was gonna do a series called "The Hypersexualization of Young Black Boys" about a lot of the things that I'm seeing in the community that's happening to our young boys. That's basically misleading them at an early age and taking them into a wrong direction. Like nowadays, we see a horrific rise of a tribe of F boys. I'm not gonna say the actual word, but it's a horrific rise in a tribe of F boys running around in the community, disrespecting our women, toxifying the community, lying to the community. And I got to thinking about it. And how do these young men end up like this? How do these young boys end up like this? And I realized that these toxic individuals that are destroying the community, they're not born that way. Like all of us, they're raised a certain way and led a certain way that causes them to behave in a toxic fashion. And so I wanted to go down a list of the top 10 ways to destroy a young black boy and make an F boy. Now, once again, this is for the improvement of the community. This is for the improvement of our own personal relationships. I'm speaking to the adults, but I'm speaking on behalf of and in regards to the children. I see way too much slackness going on. I see way too much nonsense going on. And we as parents have to start looking at ourselves and stop blaming everybody around us. At the end of the day, how our children are raised and the outcome of their rearing is on us. We look at our kids when they get older and see their behavior, and we somehow disassociate ourselves from how they was raised. We got to stop doing that. And at an early age, start trying to analyze how we're raising our kids and who we're raising our kids to be. So let's get right to it. Rule number 1, how to destroy a young black boy, how to make an F boy. Simple. Introduce him to sex before morality. Now, this is one that I want to really go in on because quite often in our community, our young men get introduced to sex way before they get introduced to the concepts of what's right and what's wrong. So you got a ton of young men who've been introduced to sex at the age of 11, 12. And not only through sexual molestation, but sometimes they get pushed into sexual situations by older children and sometimes even by their own parents and by the adults around them. And we hear these stories. Recently I read an article that was talking about Chris Brown, how Chris Brown lost his virginity at 8 to a 15-year-old girl. This is a young man who got introduced to sex at a very, very early age, way too early for me to be thinking about sex. And he got introduced to sex, I'm pretty sure, before he got fully introduced to the concepts of what's right and what's wrong. And I'm not saying that to knock Chris Brown in no way, shape, or form. But I can only imagine what's going through his mind as an adult man who got introduced to sex at the age of 8 by an older woman. For a lot of people, if you do the research, being introduced to sex at too early of an age puts you in a position where it's hard to make connections, hard to sustain connections, and it's hard to really sustain a healthy sexual relationship because your mind is working differently than a normal person's mind would be. So for individuals who've been having sex at a very, very early age, when you get to be 13, 14 years old, these 13, 14-year-old girls ain't going to do it for you because you're used to the freakiest, nastiest stuff you can imagine. And then when you become a grown man, it's hard to maintain relationships because you got introduced to sex too early. There's a psychologist who had a study, Bernice Newgarden. She had a theory called social time clock theory about individuals who got introduced to certain ideas too early. Some got introduced to ideas too late. And that throws off how they socialize with other people. So we have to be very, very careful and very, very cautious about introducing our young men to sex too early because it interferes with how they connect with others around them. And that's a major problem because society, community is about how you connect to other people. And if you can't connect to other people because you got introduced to sex when you was 8 or 9 or younger, then that makes it extremely difficult for you to have normal relationships. And that's why there's so many young men out there who can't sustain normal relationships, can't sustain normal friendships. They go through their friends, they destroy all their relationships, they destroy their relationships with women simply because they never had a relationship with a woman based upon morality. Their first experiences with women were based upon sex, based upon lying, based upon hiding. Because if you're 8 years old having sex with a 15-year-old, you got to lie to protect her. You got to lie so you won't get in trouble, or so you might think. So you're running around in the community, and then you got other people in the community who are patting you on the back and rewarding you for that kind of behavior. So you develop this kind of twisted sense of human connection that's only based on sex because nobody taught you right from wrong. Nobody taught you must respect women before you get to have one. That's why so many females are complaining, saying that they're being disrespected by the men they're dating, because a lot of the men they're dating have been introduced to sex way too early. And a lot of the young black men out there, and this is something I want to talk about in this series, the hypersexualization of young black boys. A lot of these young men out there who have these strange sexual fetishes and bizarre relationship behavior, a lot of these young men have been sexually molested. They've been touched inappropriately, or they had their parents push them into sexual activities at early ages. You know, you hear the story about Lil Wayne, how Lil Wayne lost his virginity at the age of 8. Birdman set it up and, you know, had a 14-year-old girl have sex with him when he was 11. He was 11 years old. The girl was 14. Birdman set it up. Lil Wayne says this and talks about this in interviews. So imagine how Lil Wayne's mind must have worked for years and how much damage it done to his concept of relationships for a very, very, very long time when he was introduced to sex in that manner. Because your first time is going to be a overarching theme for all the times after that. So if your first time was a situation where you didn't know the girl, you didn't respect the girl, you're gonna carry that with you. I didn't have to know her. I didn't have to respect her. I just had sex. I wanted it. I liked it. I got it. I didn't have to do nothing. I didn't have to have morality. I didn't have to respect her. I didn't have to get to know her. There was no hand holding. There was no hugging, no cuddling. There was no love notes. There was none of that. I just banged her. I just hit it. And the people in my community who arranged this and put this together, it was patting me on the back, telling me how awesome I am for doing that by the age of 8. So imagine how that affected his mindset and his relationships as he got older. And another thing that we need to talk about is not just young men having sex, but young men being exposed to the female body at an early age. And this is going to probably sound very prudish, but a lot of times I see grown women dress real provocatively in areas where there's a whole bunch of kids. And there's always the argument, well, I'm a woman, I can expose my body and dress as I see fit and can't nobody stop me. Listen, women who are running around wondering where these F boys are coming from, that's where they're coming from. A young man who's a kid should not be seeing your butt, seeing your boobs, because they're having access to the holy of holies, the female body. And guess what? They get it for free and they don't have to put no work in. And that first time, they're going to be fascinated by the female body, but at the same time, they don't have no morals to go along with it. That's going to carry on into the adult years. And I know that sounds prudish, that sounds old-fashioned, but it's the truth. A young man who get to see a woman with a big butt and some big titties, and you ain't got to do nothing to earn that, that's how you're going to carry yourself for the rest of your days. That's why these dudes are acting the way they're acting, because they got to see women scantily clad from the time they was 4. Time they was 5. They go outside and see chicks walking around with their butts hanging out and their breasts hanging out. So in their mind, that's normal. I can see a woman's body and not earn that. I ain't got to work for that. I don't have to approach her or talk to her. I get whatever I want instantaneously. And even though they're children, they're being programmed. And the worst thing you want to do is expose these young people to your body, because a lot of times that's the result of your trauma. A lot of sisters is running around exposing their bodies, not because they're confident in themselves, but because they're traumatized. And so they devalue their bodies and they show it to everybody. And you even show it to little kids. And we can all pretend like I'm being overly sensitive. No. Children in the room, cover your body. How do I know that? Because for every rule, the rule should apply all around. So as if you were a grown woman, you showing your body off to little kids, all right, cool. So what if a grown man did that? What if a grown man was walking around with his ass and his chest showing in front of your daughter? Would you let that happen? Think about it like that. Nobody sees anything wrong until you flip it to the other side. You wearing some poom shorts, you walking around in public with a thong on and your butt hanging out, all right, cool. Now imagine if a dude did that in front of your kids. The argument that I got the right to do whatever I want to do, that's not a community argument. If you're talking in terms of you being a selfish jerk and a selfish bonehead, yeah, that's a great argument. Fantastic. Do what you want to do. In the community is more important than our own individual desires. Your desire to show off your body because you think you thick, or your desire to show off your body because you think you got the right to, should that trump the needs of the community and the needs of the children? Let's think community-wide so we can think nation-wide. Let's think nation building instead of thinking my own personal private agenda to do me. Because your agenda to do you ain't gonna provide nothing for the rest of the community. And any individual who has that mentality, you're not thinking in terms of community, you're not thinking in terms of nation building. You're just being self-centered, and it's not about you. You had your shot to make something. A lot of y'all didn't. Let the kids have a fair shake at this. So your dysfunctions, put that aside so the children can build and shine. Step 2, how you destroy a young black boy and make him an F boy? Teach him that charm is more important than remorse. A lot of these young men I notice will do something to hurt somebody and won't be taught how to be compassionate and think about other people's needs and desires. So what they do is they're taught early on: smile, say something funny, give me a hug. But you hurt mommy's feelings, you hurt daddy's feelings. You know what? I'm just gonna sit on you and give you a hug, and all is forgiven. And you teaching these young men that have to be compassionate. They can use charm to get out of trouble. They can use a smile to get out of trouble. They did something wrong, they're not going to be penalized and punished. What's going to happen is all I got to do is just smile and say, I'm sorry, or pretend to be sorry. That's more important than actual remorse. I don't have to have remorse as long as I got charm. If I could charm you, if I can make you smile, that's more important than me actually being remorseful and bringing an end to the behavior that I'm engaging in that's hurting you. In adult life, don't you meet these dudes out here who think all they gotta do is buy you something or smile in your face or say something cute, and that means more than actually having remorse for what they're doing to you? And you go through the same cycle of pain and destruction and trauma bonding because he don't feel no real sense of remorse. He don't care. And guess what? He don't have to, because he's been taught from an early age that all that matters is charm. If he can charm you, it don't matter if he feels sorry for you. It don't matter if he feels sorry for what he did. That's irrelevant. He can destroy you. Destroy everything that you are, because if he can keep charming you, you'll keep coming back. And that's what these young black men get destroyed at. Because in their households, all they got to do is use charm. In the real world, that charm stuff ain't going to work, and you're going to end up in a messed up situation. So that's a key way of how you take a young black boy with all his potential, his wisdom, his knowledge, and his beauty, and turn him into a self-centered narcissist who destroys women and not build women up. Right? Number 3, teach him how to lie. Teach him how to lie. You got these young boys, the parents are no longer together. You got a baby mama and a baby daddy over here. He spent time with his mama over here. He spent time with his daddy over here. And they both teaching him how to lie. One will say, yeah, we'll do this, this, and this. Don't tell your mama. We'll do this, this, and this. Don't tell daddy. You got to hide this from your mother. Don't tell your mother you seen me doing this. Don't tell your daddy you seen me doing that. Don't tell your father that I had another dude over here. Don't tell your mother that I took you to the park with my new girlfriend. Don't tell your mother you seen me buy my other kids some sneakers. I'm gonna get you some sneakers next week. Don't tell your father that I took the money that he gave me and used it because I needed to get my nails done. So in order to satisfy your own needs, you'll teach your children how to lie and deceive for you. But unfortunately, when they grow up to become grown men who lie and cheat and deceive, that is going to fall right back on you. They're going to lie to you. They're learning how to lie from you, and they're going to grow up and lie to you. And they're going to lie to the women around them. And then they're going to lie to their kids. This is how you destroy a community. This is how you destroy a black man. You destroy him when he's a boy. Step 4 on how to destroy a young black boy. Overemphasize the power of his penis. Like we was talking about earlier. A lot of times with young men, what happens is, with these young men, what happens is we teach them and introduce them to sex too early. And instead of them getting praised for the things that they're doing that they should be doing, that on a child's level, we're praising them and patting them on the back because they're having sex when they're 8, 9 years old. So at a very early age, he's learning, oh, wow, I can have sex. Look how much everybody loves me. Look how much everybody respects me. Look at what I'm doing, how cool I am. I'm getting put on a pedestal for doing something that grown men do. See how cool I am? And then he running around telling everybody else, grown men do this. I'm only 10, I'm only 12, I'm only 14. Grown men do this. Now I'm doing this. And everybody's patting me on the back, telling me how cool I am. And don't get me wrong, I was a teenager myself too. We used to brag and pat each other on the back for that. But at the same time, we were at a normal age of development when we was doing this stuff. When you introduce this kind of behavior to kids who are 8, 9 years old, you destroy his mind. And there's nothing cool about that. There's nothing cool about emphasizing a boy's sexual power at an age where he shouldn't even be having sex. That's a form of molestation. And what we've done in our culture with all these goofy isms that everybody's running around with, you basically created an environment in which our kids have no morality, no moral guidance, and we can softcore porn molest these kids These kids are being put in situations where there's a variety of forms of molestation going on. You making these young men have sex and watching these young dudes have sex when they're young. That's child molestation. You think that's cool? To teach a kid who 5, 6 years old how to act out, that's child molestation. But we live in a culture where we make it seem like, oh no, it's not a big deal. Until he grows up and he becomes a toxic man who can't love, who can't focus, who can't build. Then everybody hates his guts. And I don't have no sympathy for nobody who hurt kids. I don't have no sympathy for nobody who hurt children or hurt women. None. I don't have no sympathy for nobody who's toxic to the community. But you gotta look at the root of where this came from. These dudes been molested, either directly molested or forms of indirect molestation. Showing little kids pornography, that's indirect sexual molestation. That's what child molesters do. They show little kids porn to prime them psychologically. And a lot of times you might not touch these kids, but you showing them sexual material at an early age. But before they can even understand it, you're doing the same thing child molesters do and priming them. And it's very important that we protect these kids from that kind of behavior. And stop putting it on a pedestal thinking that's cool. Step 5 on how to destroy a young black boy: present no consequences. Whatever he does, pat him on the back and tell him he's great. He do something wrong, pat him on the back and smile at him. Don't give him no consequences. He acts out, don't give him no consequences. He disrespects adults, don't give him no consequences. He lies, cheats, steals, catch him having sex, catch him fighting other kids, catch him bullying other kids, give him no consequences. That's how you destroy him and turn him into a toxic monster. You hold back from consequences because you feel sorry, because you feel guilty, because things didn't work out in your life. So now you got to allow him to get away with doing things that are hurting other people. That's how you destroy a young man. The Bible says, spare the rod, spoil the child. Some of us don't spank our children. I'm not knocking that. You don't spank your kids, that's cool. But a consequence must be there. A conversation, discussion, something. A family meeting, something. There has to be some kind of sense that what he did is not acceptable. However you decide to communicate that to your children in a healthy fashion. Turning a blind eye to these young men is not only hurtful to them, but it's hurtful to the community as a whole. Because when somebody don't have consequences, they're going to continue to engage in certain dangerous behavior, and it's going to become more dangerous and more toxic as the years go by. A lot of these kids who end up in gangs, how you think they got there? How you think a kid goes from being pure-hearted and kind and then grows up being a psychopath and a murderer? It's a process. And a big part of that process is them not getting consequences at home. A lot of the kids I used to work with was kids who went to jail and was totally baffled. Had no idea. I know I can get locked for that. Because at home, they ain't get no consequences. So the idea of a consequence that severe, getting incarcerated, being around other kids who are murderers, gang members, they're surprised by that. They're taken off guard by that. They have no idea. They never had. I know kids who never had consequences until the cops slap handcuffs on them. And even then, a lot of young kids will laugh. Cops lock you up, you'll laugh. They snatch you up, you're laughing because you think it's a joke. A lot of kids really think it's a joke until they got to spend 9 months somewhere away from their family. Then the tears come out. Mommy, I just want to go home. Mommy, I just want to go home. You a child at heart. But you never had consequences at home, so you think that's how life works. That people are always going to let you go because of your youth or because of your charm. Once again, goes back to that other rule I mentioned. Kids thinking they can charm their way out of situations where other people get hurt. That's how you destroy a young black man. Teach him another way to destroy a young black man. Teach him that he is immortal. Teach him that no matter how far he pushes the envelope, no matter how fast he's going, no matter what he does, that he should be praised for it, and teach him that he'll never be punished and he'll never die. So a young black boy growing up in a dangerous environment who is unaware of the danger because he never had consequences, he thinks he's immortal. And they're going to keep pushing the envelope until reality sets in and you realize gravity is an undeniable force in creation and that death is waiting for everybody. And yes, some of us will die before our time through accidents, through sickness, through illness, what have you. But the honest truth of the matter is that many of us in the city die before our time because we pushing that envelope. You've been raised without consequences, and death is the ultimate consequence. So because you've never had a consequence before, you really honestly believe in your mind that you're going to survive anything. You think you're going to live? In a situation some of these young men put themselves in, it's mind-blowing. They think they're going to walk away. You never had a consequence before. Your mother never powed you. Stop. What are you doing? Go to your room. You never had that before. So these kids be going around really honestly in their mind believing that they're immortal. I'm not gonna die. I never had a consequence before. Death is the ultimate consequence. Therefore, I'm gonna laugh at that the same way I laugh at my mother when she get upset with me, because I know she's gonna forgive me. Or my father, he get upset with me and get mad at me, but I know he's gonna forgive me because I play football. I never had a consequence. So the idea of death being a consequence is something I can't even fathom. So you teach these young men that they don't have to follow rules and follow regulations. You're essentially teaching them that they are immortal, and that's a lie. That's another form of child abuse. To prevent yourself from providing consequences to your children. And I'm not talking about beating or spanking, so don't bring that up. That's your own decision. As a parent, you decide how you're going to discipline your children. But if you decide not to discipline your children, you're teaching them that they are immortal. And the kids who think they are immortal are the ones who are the fastest to die. We must raise our children with an awareness of consequences and an awareness of who they call grandfather death, the ancestor of all of us. Another way to destroy a young black man: show him he has more power than a grown man. Now this is a tricky one. In what ways do we show young men that they have more power than a grown man? Well, if your kid is at school and disrespecting the teacher, right? The teacher tries to check your son. Your son goes home and tells you, yeah, Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so, yeah, she told me to be quiet in class. Then you flip out. What? They told you to be quiet? Oh, no, I'm going to the school right now. And in his mind, he's thinking, I got more power than this grown man because my mother's going to back me. My mother's going to go to the school and spaz on everybody. So I don't have to follow the rules. I'm more powerful than this grown man. I'm more powerful than these grown men. That's one of the fastest ways to destroy a young man is to raise him in a situation where he don't have respect for the grown men around him. Your life depends upon your relationship with older people. It's older individuals in the hood who could put you up on game or put you up on money, or older people in the hood who just look out for you. They might not never give you nothing, but they might just look out for you. They might see you in a situation and intervene, like, you know what, stop, leave them alone. A lot of older people in the hood who I used to see when I was growing up, I don't even know their names, but sometimes they would break up fights. They would stop kids from pulling out guns and weapons. Or sometimes they would protect the kids from the police. The kids would end up in a fight. The OGs would break it up. The kids would go their separate ways. The police would show up trying to lock kids up and snatch kids up. And the OGs would warn them, get out, go hide, go back home. Or go hide in my backyard real quick. But if you have a relationship with the older people where you think you're more powerful than them, then you won't have community protection. You won't have community support. So the extra help that you might need, the extra guidance that you might need, you're not going to get it. Point blank, period. And there's a lot of young men out there who are in tough situations, dead or incarcerated, simply because they thought they had more power than a grown man. And one thing, and I'm not knocking no sister who ever found herself in a tough situation as far as being a parent, but one of the things I think sisters need to stop doing, stop telling your young son he's the man of the house. Stop telling your young son he's the man of the house. And then when you dating somebody and bring them through, that grown man got to sit there and submit himself to your son. Don't do that. Your son is not the man of the house, because that teaches young men that you can have power without productivity. You're the man of the house, but you don't work and you don't pay no bills. No, don't do that. And don't ever make him feel like he's more powerful than a grown man. Because trust me, he's going to miss out on true development. And a big part of true development is having grown men invest time and energy in you. But if you think you're more powerful than a grown man, you disrespect the grown man, no grown man is going to want to deal with you outside of a job or a program. So a lot of these grown men are working with these kids, trying to offer knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. But these kids ain't trying to hear none of that because they've been raised to think they're more powerful than a grown man. Because if they don't get their way, I'll just call my mother. My mother come to the school. My mother come right here right now. My father come here right now. So you got these young punks running around disrespecting adults. How can you run anything without a hierarchy? Without a hierarchy, without a pecking order, you can't run nothing. And these young men don't know how to follow the rules of society simply because they've been taught since they were 4 or 5 years old that they're the man of the house. You're the man of the house. Well, I get to tell you what to do. If I'm the man of the house, I'm telling you what to do. You have to listen, but I don't have to provide anything because I'm only a kid. That's nonsensical. That's a schizophrenic way of seeing things. You can't be a child and a man of the house. You can't be a little boy, but talk to think that you're more powerful than these grown men. Another way to destroy a young black man, turn him into an F-boy, don't demand productivity. Don't demand that he actually put in no work. Don't ask him to do nothing. Just reward him. Just reward him. Just reward him. Give him whatever he wants. He wants some new sneakers, get the sneakers. He ain't got to do nothing for him. He wants some money for some toys, just give him the money, give him the toys. Teach him that no matter what he asks for, he's going to get it. He don't have to work for anything. Don't demand that he do anything. Don't demand he do no chores. Don't demand he, when I was a young kid, I definitely had to do chores. My grandmother would wake us up. I was just talking about this with my mom. She'll wake us up. She hated seeing people lay around. Get up, clean up. And then after we cleaned up, she would reward us. After we put the work in, she's not going to just pop up and here you go, baby. Here's some money. Nope. You're going to work for this because we're all a family. Everybody got to contribute. And the bigger you are, the more you got to contribute. Take the garbage out. Sweep this floor. Wash these dishes. Let me see your grades. What are you doing in school? What books are you reading? Sit down with me and talk to me. And listen to what I have to teach you. And follow my words. And once you can do these things, then you get the reward. But nobody's going to reward you just for the fact that you breathe air. Nobody's going to reward you for what you take. I'm going to take as much as I can and get rewarded because I'm a good taker. That makes no sense. That's not a citizen. That's not a person who's ready and willing to contribute. That's an individual who's ready and willing to destroy. That is a maelstrom of toxicity boiling over. So we must teach our kids at an early age that you must be productive, even in small ways. My boys want something. Okay, it's time to clean up. Clean up after yourself. Pick this up. Take this out. Go check on your grandmother. Make sure she's okay. Ask her if she needs anything. Come with me to the store. Carry this box. My kids are little, but they learn at an early age. You're not getting anything from me without putting some work in. That's how life is. You want to watch TV? Okay, before you watch TV, we're going to do some reading. We're going to do some writing. Let's practice your math. Productivity is mandatory in my house. You got to do something. I don't care how young you are. Do something. And last but not least, the best way or the fastest way to destroy a young black boy, teach him the future doesn't exist. Don't ever talk to him about the future. Don't ever talk to him about what you expect him to do so his future can be secure. And don't ever talk to him about what you're doing for his future. Block the future out because we're so afraid of the future. We're so afraid of responsibility. Because when you start talking about the future, you got to start talking about responsibility. And our fear of talking about the future, our fear of responsibility spills over onto our children. And they develop a horrific fear of responsibility and a horrific fear of just the future, period. Because the future requires work. The future requires that you put your energy in. Hey, what's up, cuz? The future requires that you go in and do what you got to do. And so many of us are afraid to even discuss and talk about the future. That fear of talking about the future, it spills over onto our children and it takes our young black boys and turn our black boys into toxic forces in the community. Because when it's okay to live and it's okay to be meditative and be in the present moment. There's nothing wrong with that. But when you raise a young black boy to not even consider the future, then his life don't mean anything. That goes back to what I was saying before about teaching your kids that they're free from consequences. You teach your kids that they're free from consequences simply by blocking out the future. And our fear of the future spills over into our kids and turns our kids toxic. People wonder where these F-boys come from. Where all these F-boys coming from? They were raised and made that way by a culture that glorifies amorality and stupidity. And the more we throw out the old rules and don't replace them with new rules, or we replace them with new toxic rules, our kids are the ones that's suffering. And I see y'all just popped in. I'm wrapping up. Ah, man, I wish I had came earlier. But it's all good. I'm going to put it on my IGTV for y'all to see. But before I go, I just want to show everybody who happens to see this video, my book is here. Easy, A Guide to Mindfulness and Meditation. I'm going to be promoting this and pushing this on my page. I got a promotional video being done as we speak. Y'all going to be seeing that very, very soon. Interested in looking at the book and seeing what it's all about, maybe buying a copy, check out Devin McCrory, www.devinmccrory.com. That's my page for selling the book. All right. I'm about to hop out of this live stream. I'm going to probably do another one of these tomorrow to go a little bit more in on the topic of how to destroy a young black boy, the hypersexualization of young black boys. And I'm gonna see y'all then. Peace and blessings.